What is really happening when kids struggle in school? Trying harder just doesn't work. Many kids benefit from a multi-sensory approach to learning reading. And it works because this actually matches how the young brain works. If your child is bright but frustrated, resistant, or falling behind, despite everyone's best efforts, this episode with Dr. Emily Levy will help you see those struggles through new lenses. You will become aware with clarity, compassion, and hope that you can share with other parents and educators of young readers. I'm glad you are here, and you will be glad you listened as well. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back to the Language of Play, listeners. Hey, if listening is a struggle in your home or your classroom, whether it is because of ADHD, language delays, speech challenges, or even just strong-willed kids, you're not alone. And that's why I created a free resource called 5 Ways to Get Your Kids to Listen Better. These are practical strategies you can start using today. They work not just for parents, but also for teachers and childcare workers, and even, believe it or not, some adults have told me that it works with their spouse. And this is because it's human. You can go to the show notes and grab it for free. And if you have been benefiting from the content you hear in this podcast, I want to invite you to donate or sponsor this podcast. This podcast has been a joy to do, and your support will help me continue to do this work. So scroll down in the show notes and you will see a place to either donate or sponsor. And thank you ahead of time. One of our sponsors is Lightning Admin VA. Nap time is precious. But if you're spending it answering emails or fixing tech issues, it's not really a break. Cindy at Lightning Admin VA can help. She is a virtual assistant who takes care of the behind-the-scenes business tasks, so you can use that time for the moments that really matter. Email Cindy at lightningadminva.com. A little celebration before we begin this episode content, and that is I would like to send a shout out to the countries where the language of play has been on the top podcasts chart today as I am recording. Those countries are Egypt, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Canada, Taiwan, South Africa, Iceland, Slovenia, Jordan, Hong Kong, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia. Isn't that fun? I love knowing that we are making a difference in families all around the globe. All right, with that celebration in mind, let's get started in listening to this pre-recorded episode. Dr. Emily Levy is the founder and director of EBL Coaching, a specialized tutoring program that offers individualized one-on-one home, virtual, and on-site instruction using research-based multisensory techniques. A full bio can be found in the show notes, and you'll want to read it. It's a good one. Dr. Emily, I am so glad that you are here on the Language of Play. We are so glad to hear about your expertise in education and what it's been like as a mom and all the things. So welcome to the Language of Play.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you. Tell us about give the overview on your expertise in education and how it is that you decided to get there. What propelled that?
Great question. I have had sort of this circuitous path to getting to where I am today. But as a general overview, I'm the founder and director of EBL Coaching, which is a one-on-one tutoring program for students who have specialized learning needs based in New York City and New Jersey, and also virtually nationwide and worldwide. In terms of how I got here, I actually grew up in the field of special education. My mother was the founder of a school for students with learning disabilities down in South Florida, which is where I grew up. So I really spent a lot of my childhood working at her schools, being trained at different methods, working with kids. However, I thought I wanted to carve my own path and sort of do my own thing. So I went to Brown University as an undergraduate. And then after college, of all things, I did finance for 2 years. Great learning experience. I really gained a lot that I actually still use today. But I quickly realized it wasn't my calling. I didn't find it particularly rewarding for me. And I remembered how fulfilling and rewarding it was working with kids and seeing them thrive with the right methods in place. So I pivoted at that point. I ended up receiving my master's degree in special education and my doctorate degree in general education. And then I started to slowly and then full-time eventually work one-on-one with students myself. And then once my time maxed out, I started to organically grow the program to what it is today, where we have a wonderful large team of tutors who specialize in one-on-one tutoring instruction in all different skill areas: reading, writing, spelling, math, study skills, starting as young as the preschool level and going all the way up through the adult level. So it's been quite a journey, but it's really been a very exciting one.
That's fabulous. It sounds like you are reaching a wide age range with a wide variety of skills.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Keeps things interesting.
It does. It does. Now, what is your personal favorite thing to work on? Like, what do you do that you just love the most as an individual? Not like as your program, but just you as your individual. Help us know you.
Great question. I think that moment when I see a child go from non-reading to reading is something that is just magical for me. And I remember the first time I experienced it was many, many years ago. And it was so heartwarming and so fulfilling and rewarding in so many ways that I think that moment is really something that I still love seeing and love hearing about every day.
Yeah, when it clicks, when the light bulbs go on, when all the neurology just seems to gel and it works.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
beautiful. Yes, I
It
love
is.
that too. All right, some of the topics that you talk about would be how parents can advocate for their children. Would you tell us a little bit about your philosophy in advocacy?
Sure. I'm really a big believer that a parent will always be their child's best advocate. No matter what, they know their child best and they will always be or should always be on their child's side. So, with that said, if something doesn't feel right from a parent's perspective, their child is struggling with their homework, struggling to learn how to read, really having a difficult time breaking down math word problems, whatever it is, they should first start by reaching out to their child's teacher, have a dialogue. Is the teacher noticing these same kinds of struggles in school? If they are, maybe something deeper might be going on. Maybe an evaluation might make more sense so that the child can get more support at school, more services at school. But I think, again, it comes really down to the parent advocating for their child, not just initially, but throughout the course of their education journey. Because sometimes something's going really well one year or one semester, and then in the second half of the year, everything starts to wind downward. So I think just always being on top of that and always advocating for their child is so important.
Yeah, staying in tune, staying connected, staying knowing what is going on in the classroom, being,
Definitely.
being a
Always.
part of it. So when kids are struggling in school, What kinds of things do you recommend that parents can do to help kids thrive?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on what they're struggling with, how old they are, what grade they're in. Of course, there's a lot of different factors. But I think that starting with communicating with the child's teacher, like I mentioned before, to see what other struggles the teacher's noticing. A parent might notice something at home, but the teacher might notice it as well, or a different version of it. So I think really trying to understand what the challenge is. Then from there, seeing, well, can the school or teacher provide extra support? Is there an opportunity for the child to get extra help by the teacher, by a support team at school? If not, outside tutoring, of course, can really be so helpful for the child to really build the skill or the set of skills that they're having difficulty with.
Yeah, that's amazing. So one of the things that like our kiddos sometimes end up in disability programs. They end up on an IEP, some of them on a 504, some of them tutoring is sufficient. Would you tease apart the different levels that parents would go through, like tutoring and then what? There's just so much to it. I'm familiar with Minnesota rules. I know the national rules. There might be some things that are unique to Florida. I don't know.
Sure. Well, I will say again, it really varies so much on a student by student basis. But I would say if a child is struggling, step one, again, reach out to the teacher, have that communication, try tutoring outside because sometimes that in and of itself can do wonders. And the child may not also need that extra support at school if they're getting the skill building outside of school through one-on-one tutoring. If they're still struggling a lot with the tutoring, struggling in school, then it probably makes sense to have an evaluation done. And a lot of families will still continue with the tutoring while going through the evaluation process because it certainly can be a lengthy process. And then from there, based on the results of the evaluation, typically the child will either receive a 504 plan or an IEP. An IEP is usually more for more severe challenges. If a child has autism, a diagnosed learning disability, they'll typically receive an IEP. A 504 is for, I would say, a little bit less severe challenges. Oftentimes, kids who have ADHD or executive functioning challenges, sometimes anxiety, might receive a 504 plan where they receive accommodations within the regular classroom setting versus a different curriculum or a more kind of restrictive type of environment that an IEP might require.
Yeah, good description. Now, when parents hear alphabet soup from us, it doesn't mean a whole lot. So, IEP is individualized education plan or individualized education program, depending where you are. It's either plan or program, same thing. And 504, I'm just going to ask you, do you know why those numbers were assigned? I've always wondered that.
I don't.
Neither
I'm
do
sure
I.
that there's some rationale
There
behind it.
must be a
I
reason
don't
that
know the
somebody
history.
picked that.
I probably should look that up at some point. I don't know.
Me
I know
too.
what it means, of course. I know what it implies. I'm not quite sure of
Yeah.
the history of that terminology.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't tell anybody what 504 means other than what you described so clearly, how it's used.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good. So now you describe tutoring as something that parents could do after school. And one of the things that I particularly like about that is that the kiddos aren't being pulled out of their classroom classes the way that if we need to do an evaluation during the school day, we need to do special education services, they're pulled out of some class in order to attend a different class. But when you are tutoring, they get to participate in everything. And then, of course, it's on mamas and dads after school.
Yes, I think that's a really important point. I think
Yeah.
sometimes if a child's missing out on learning in school in order to get tutoring, it's almost creating more of a challenge because now they have to play catch up on what they're missing. So there's that piece. And then sometimes there's that sort of social emotional piece of other kids seeing a child being pulled out, and then therefore sometimes the child won't feel as good about themselves with other kids knowing, and there's sort of that emotional dynamic. So we kind of eliminate that when it's after school because the child's still with their peers during the school day, still participating in their classes, but then receiving this extra support outside of school.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a nice thing. When it can work, it's fabulous. Yeah.
Yes.
And that would be work for families. Tell us some successes. Tell us a story of success, one or two.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot, fortunately.
I'm sure.
One story that just sticks with me is a student that I personally worked with many years ago. I'm going to date myself here, but I believe he was in first grade at the time, severe dyslexia, severe ADHD, bouncing off walls. He couldn't read at all, didn't know the names of the letters or corresponding sounds. And I personally worked with him using the Orton Gillingham method, which is a specialized technique. And slowly but surely, he made great strides. And then many, many years later, his mother happened to have reached out to me, and she said that not only did he graduate high school, he went to college, he went to graduate school, and he's now working as an engineer. And it was just music to my ears. It was like, this is why I do what I do every day, to hear these kinds of stories. Another father just recently reached out to me. I think we worked with him, not myself, but one of our tutors when he was in middle school, and he's now at Georgetown studying law. So it comes to show that with the right support, these kids who struggle really have the ability to make it in life. It's getting through school that can be a challenge, but once they do that, they have so much potential, so many gifts to really thrive in life.
Love it. Thank you.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned Orton Gillingham. For a parent that is not familiar with Orton Gillingham, can you give a succinct overview of that program?
Absolutely. So the Orton Gillingham method is a specific research-based multi-sensory technique that's designed to help students develop their decoding and encoding skills, or basically the mechanics of reading and spelling. And what's unique about it is that it's very structured and systematic. So meaning we start with the foundations, the individual letters, their corresponding sounds, how to blend those sounds together to form basic words. And then we slowly introduce more complex patterns. We introduce blends, consonant digraphs, vowel pairs, multisyllabic word patterns, but all in this very structured, systematic, and multisensory way. And we constantly integrate previously taught concepts into new concepts to really help students retain that information in their long-term memories.
Good. Can you tell parents an example of what you might use to make a lesson multisensory?
Yeah, so one example might be for younger kids or kids who really are not able to read. If we're teaching the individual letters and their corresponding sounds, we might start with an audiovisual card drill. So we'll have a letter that has a key picture that goes along with it, which might be the letter A and a picture of an apple. And we'll start out by saying this is the letter A, like apple. It makes the sound ah, and we'll have the student do it with us and then eventually on their own. And then we might take out a tray of colored sand, which, by the way, parents can do at home with salt or sugar or whatever it is. And we put it in a tray, and the teacher always models first how we write the letter A. For lowercase, we go around, up, and down. And then the child does it with us, and then we have them do it on their own. And then we might do sky writing or sometimes shaving cream writing, where again, we model it, and the child does it with us, and then they do it on their own. And then eventually we do this for other letters, and then we work on blending those sounds together to form words using things like magnetic tiles and whiteboards and flashcards. So really integrating the senses as we're teaching these concepts.
Oh, that's a great example. And that leads right into one of the things that I always want my guests to do, and that would be to give our parents a tip, a strategy that they can use at home. And you just listed several, so that is great. So repeat some of those again. What if you were to have a parent whose child is struggling, they haven't yet pursued an IEP, they are not on a 504, they know that their child is struggling to learn to read.
Mm,
Give some of those multisensory strategies that fit into the normal environment of home.
sure. Well, I will do that, but I will say that it's important that these strategies fit into a systematic plan. So, for instance, using colored sand or sugar to trace letters is great, but it really should follow in within a whole lesson plan that surrounds that. But if they want to just reinforce some of these concepts at home, yes, forming letters in sand is a great one. Taking out shaving cream to work on letters or number formation. Sometimes we even have it stick it inside a Ziploc bag so it doesn't make a giant mess. We can have students stand up really tall and use our gross motor muscles and form letters in the sky that way. So we're really integrating these multisensory tools. And then we can take out magnetic tiles, and parents can even make their own by just buying printable magnetic paper and writing letters and cut them out. And then practice with basic two-letter words when they're ready. A and T, let's put those sounds together. What word do we get? I and N. So really using a lot of these tools, but ideally within the context of a systematic lesson structure.
Sure. Why does the system, the the systematic and the multisensory. Why do they work so well?
There's been a lot of research that just supports the efficacy of it, and I think it's just the way the brain is able to absorb new information by having these different channels instead of just one modality. We're kind of attacking it through multiple channels, and that really helps this information to stick in our long-term memories.
Yeah, it integrates it, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
Very good. You have another topic that you talk about, and that would be improving our education system.
Mm.
And many people that come on this show have had an experience with the education system that is negative. And that breaks my heart a lot of times because I know that this happens. I know that there's a lot of people that do have a negative experience. And yet I also have worked in the education system for a lot of years, and I see the hearts of teachers.
Mm.
And, so the teachers are never, the ones that I've worked with have never been wanting to create the drama that does happen sometimes with some students. How do
Yeah.
you see we can improve our education system?
Sure. Well, it's complicated, of course, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the
Lots of
hearts of
facets.
most teachers are in the right place. I think that's why they go into this field to really
Yeah.
have the opportunity to change and shape the lives of children of our future. So it's really such a noble position, and I think there's so much bureaucracy and certain rules they have to follow and all of that that kind of gets into the way of where their heart is and how they want to help these kids. With that said, I'm a big believer in effective professional development. I think that sometimes until you're in the classroom, until you're working with students, you can learn so much in college or in graduate school and teaching programs. But until you're in the classroom and you see how kids are doing and you have the opportunity to work with them, I think at that point, that's when we need more professional development to come in on structured approaches to reading, to writing, to math, really tools that are effective that teachers can learn and then have that continued professional development so that they can evolve with it.
Right. And which is one of the things that you do.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of speaking engagements, mostly at different conferences, sometimes at schools, about different approaches to teaching different skills to students in a really in a very effective way.
That's beautiful. So now if our listeners want to get a hold of you to maybe speak, maybe get tutoring, maybe just connect with you because they heard something here that tripped their curiosity, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, the best way would be through our website, which is eblcoaching.com. And then we also have channels under EBL Coaching on Facebook, on Instagram, and then also on TikTok.
Perfect. And I will have those links in the show notes. I
Mhm.
appreciate you giving us your time today, Dr. Emily Levy, for your expertise, for your passion for your work, and for the changes that you're making in the world for our children.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Hey, listeners, be sure to visit the show notes if you would like to get in contact with Dr. Emily Levy. You will find further connection to her, to me, and other resources in the show notes found below this episode. Hey, parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.